GamerCast Network.
Hey. All right. It's a video game show. It's a video game show. It's not a game show about videos. It's a video game show.
Welcome to the GamerCast Network Video Game Show, episode number 94 for Sunday, June 15th, 2008, Father's Day. I'm Chad, and this week for the roll call, for the abbreviated show, because it is Father's Day and everybody sucks, except for my two compadres here who valiantly showed up. What is the game you remember most fondly playing with your father? And joining me is Phil.
There were a number of Atari 2600 games that I played with my dad quite a bit, but I think the one that I remember the most was Tecmo Super Bowl for the Sega Genesis. He surprised us and bought the Genesis and got the game, and then he got the wireless controllers and everything to try and play it. So
Big spender, wireless.
Yeah, and it wasn't good at all. You know,
I was just about to say, the wireless doesn't really work now.
Right.
Unless it's, the specific brand. I can only imagine how it was back then.
And also joining us is Keith.
It would be a toss-up between, I've mentioned this before, playing the Atari 2600 with the paddle controllers, playing Kaboom, because my dad just completely rocked at that game. And then I also remember for the Super Nintendo, when we had Street Fighter 2, he would come down and pick up a controller and pick E-Honda and just sit there and laugh when he does how you just slam on the button and he does the little arm thing? Well, the first couple days we had the game and that would beat everybody, he just sat there and was beating everybody up, just laughing the whole time.
Me and my father have played lots of games together all throughout the years. Back in the day, role-playing games, you didn't play them cooperatively, but we used to play them at the same time. So he would play some and I'd play some, that kind of stuff. Lots of fun playing like Dragon Wars and all the old Apple II role-playing games together. I think I even screwed up his save games many a time. Well, our Apple II had a secondary disk drive, and if you left the disk in there when you booted the system up, it always seemed to erase the disk.
Is that a feature?
That's a feature, yeah, that's a feature.
It really makes you wonder, why did they make things that way back then? You know what I mean? It's just one of those where you look at stuff now, and then you look back at stuff, and it was such a pain in the ass to game. You had to truly be hardcore to game at the start of gaming. That's so sad.
This week on the GamerCast Network. On the post-game report, Finster and Arbor discuss the tag question of the week with Mankato Man 22. The tag community also discusses games they'd like to see canceled and the age-old question, are video games art? Brace yourself. A Treyarch game might actually be good. Find out what Jay and Paris think about Call of Duty 5 on this week's Uncle Gamer Radio. This week, on episode 151, Gamertag Radio brings you a podcast-exclusive interview with the developers from Day One Studios about their upcoming game, Fracture. On Sarcastic Gamer, after a successful boycott of Battlefield Bad Company, is it okay to pay extra money for guns? And Call of Duty 5 World at War has been announced. Will it be good? Will it be bad? Why should we care? Discover the podcast community that brings you all these great podcasts and more. GamerCastNetwork.com.
Next topic.
Probably should put a mention here that the show is going to be a little shorter this week because Ivan's out, Tom's out, Bob is working. So what we're going to do for this week's show is right before this show, I'm putting out a video that Chris Palladino took at the Xbox 360 Showcase Days from a few weeks ago. During the event, I guess he was taking questions from the community to ask Dennis Dyack, who is the maker of Too Human, which is the game coming out for the Xbox 360. And one of those questions was from Keith here. And it was a question on ranged versus melee combat and how they balance that in Too Human. So if you go check before this episode on the feed, you'll find the video answer.
I mean, any type of game like that, let's face it. I mean, you think of Diablo, you think of all those games. By the end of the game, the warrior is over there hacking away, killing one or two guys at a time, while the archer is shooting their 10,000 arrows, killing everybody, and the mage is just lobbing balls of fire and ice and whatever. And it's like that for everything. Even Hellgate London. The melee guys, sucked compared to the other guys. And just every game, Melee ends up completely sucking compared to everybody else by the end of the game. Which, let's face it, that's where you're going to spend the most time is endgame.
Yeah, well, the listeners can hear how Two Humans handling that by downloading the video. Two Human does look good. Again, I said one of the problems, they cut down on the co-op to only 2 players at a time.
That I don't know why they did. That was my biggest complaint with Crackdown, was that it was only 2 players and you couldn't have a bunch of people playing. And this is just basically going to be, for all intents and purposes, just like that. I mean, only time will tell, but I just have a feeling it's going to fall short of expectation, like most things in my life.
Next topic.
So I've been playing Mass Effect for the PC over the last week. Mass Effect is not a very long game, is it?
If you just run right through the main quest, not at all.
I started playing it, and I've maybe put, 2, 3, 4, maybe 7, 8 hours in so far, and I'm already up to the part right before the end game where you have to go to the water world and find out what happened to the missing people.
I want to say the game probably was about 20-ish, doing everything.
That's what I figured. I'll probably come in just under 20 if I were to go back and do all the side quests.
And after the fact, when listening to the one podcast where we were talking about gameplay, the more I thought about it, the more 20 hours of gameplay for Metal Gear, I shouldn't have knocked that at all. I think it was just one of those, I wasn't thinking about it on the grand scheme of things. In hindsight, actually looking through games and really thinking about it, that's pretty good. I think I was just thinking pure role-playing game when I think of hours, and those are going to blow by everything.
Next topic.
I've been playing Dynasty Warriors 6. I really like what they did with it. I mean, yes, it's still button-mashing mayhem, but they give you a lot more custom ability with how you move with your character. So instead of just you gain a level, you get +1 attack, +1 defense, that kind of thing. You have a skill web. When you level, you get a point for each level you go up. And it's a matrix. You need to spend 2 points in this web to get to this skill. Then they also added horses. You actually start out on a horse. And you can level up your horse. They have speed, jumping. There's attack and devastation, and I have no clue what the difference between the two are.
I think you want devastation.
I know, if I was going to say, do you want me to attack you or devastate you?
Based on verb power or verb strength alone, I'm leaning towards devastation.
Exactly. But I don't know what it does. Then as your horse levels up, it runs faster, that kind of thing. And then your horse gets skills that you get as well. They now put objectives in each map. If you're doing the first one for the Yellow Turban Rebellion, you have to lower the drawbridge in like 5 minutes. You have to defeat 2 specific generals within 10 minutes and beat the whole thing with a certain guy alive within 20. And if you meet those goals, you get bonus experience at the end. And that's also how you unlock people, is by meeting these certain objectives on certain boards. They made it a little more difficult. It's really based on the guy you're using is the difficulty. If it's a guy that they deemed was going to be a badass, he just swings his sword and hits everyone in a 180-degree arc. You lay low the world. And then there's some people that if you stuck out your arm, it would go further than the weapon goes. So you have to literally run into the middle of all the bad guys to hit them. And of course, you just get your ass kicked. So they did make the game harder, but it is still button mashing goodness. This is, in my opinion, easily the best Dynasty Warriors game. If you have a 360 and enjoyed the game, by all means, pick it up, because then you'd have your one copy.
It's kind of like Madden in a way. You have to have your one copy of Dynasty Warriors.
Next topic.
They have announced what the next Call of Duty game is going to be. So Call of Duty 4 was pretty popular. It is pretty popular. Lots of people are still playing it. So they've kind of announced what Call of Duty 5... Well, it's not really Call of Duty 5. Even though everyone's calling it Call of Duty 5, that really isn't what it is. That's not the official name. The official name is Call of Duty World at War. It's being made by Treyarch. It's not made by Infinity Ward. Infinity Ward is the makers of Call of Duty 4. Treyarch is the one that made Call of Duty 3. The game is being set in the Pacific Theater of World War II. Yes, it's back to World War II.
Yeah.
And it's going to use the Call of Duty 4 engine. It's going to look like Call of Duty 4. It's going to have all the multiplayer stuff, the perks, and all those kind of things. It's just set back in World War II rather than current day war.
I don't know how I feel about that. Modern weapons are much more fun than World War II weapons. And World War II has been done... So now I know you could say that really for any genre. that it's been done so many times, but at least it's usually done by different people. So at least it has a different spin on it. You know what I find funny, though? I just realized that as I sit here and knock, how many Call of Duties are they going to have? And I just did a review of Dynasty Warriors 6.
Yeah, I was going to make that comparison there, but I was waiting for you to figure that out.
Yeah, it took a minute, but it wasn't lost on me.
Here's the only things I can say to it. One of the things is this is the first Call of Duty game that's going to have co-op playthrough.
Well, that in itself is cool.
And supposedly they're going to have this be a grittier World War II game. They describe some sequence where the first level is like some Japanese commander slitting a prisoner's throat, and then you have to escape somehow. So it sounds more gritty. And actually, supposedly this game's been in development for like 2 years. This is not like a short-term developed game. So who knows? It might be fun.
This is one of those where I think if you make it grittier, it will draw more interest. And people will be, ooh, well, that sounds kind of different and cool and that kind of thing. And of course, the more gritty you get with it, the more people are going to attack it. Especially since it is relating to something historical such as World War II. I'm sure that you'll have Bumblefoot and his followers and people like him going after it and yelling at it. And as we said, when it comes to video games, there is no bad publicity.
This is coming out for the PC, PlayStation 3, 360, and the Wii. Supposedly they have a version of the engine running on the Wii already. And it's going to use the Wii Zapper and all those things.
I got to give them credit for putting the stuff out on the Wii for their older audiences. I don't know. It just feels wrong.
I haven't played it, but there is a Medal of Honor for the Wii. I think a friend of mine played and said it wasn't that bad.
The whole layout of the Wii is very conducive to shooters. It's just that since it's Nintendo, you're usually shooting ghosts or rabid mushrooms or things like that as opposed to actual people. And it does kind of make a difference when you're, at least in my opinion, to shoot a video game person or a video game ghost kind of a thing. Now, if they did like a whole Ghost... And I know Ghostbusters coming out for the 360 and PlayStation, but I don't know if it's coming out for the Wii.
There is a version of Ghostbusters coming out for the Wii. It's not being done by the same guys who are doing the 360 and PlayStation 3 versions. The Wii version is going to have some kind of a single-player mode, but it sounds like it's going to be more of a multiplayer party game kind of thing. But thinking about it, it would be fun to control a proton pack and ghost traps with the Wiimote.
Yeah, just without playing anything for any version, I would just say off the top that I would rather play that for the Wii if it was out for the Wii than anything else.
Although, it's kind of one of those things where you think it would be cool, but you just end up waggling your arms around.
Yeah, and then you're just kind of like, you know what, this could have been so good. And they just completely dropped the ball. That seems to be more of the trend of games dropping the ball as opposed to games being pleasantly surprised that it is as good as it is. Or is it just that people are getting higher expectations for the games?
I think there is a lot of expectation because you see all these great looking trailers and all this great looking footage, and then it comes out and it doesn't match those. But that's what the trailers are for. The trailers are out there to try and get you interested in the game. You might be seeing it, building up in your own mind. Oh, it's going to be so cool. It's going to be so cool to do all this cool stuff. And then, no, it comes out and it's like Hellgate London. Hellgate London looked perfect. Everything was there. Then it comes out and you realize that, oh no, it's missing this. This is broken. That doesn't work right. It showed this over here, but that's not really how it works. That kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess that's right. I guess it's more that you're expecting more from the game. Because why would you go play it if you're not expecting much from it? I guess would be the flip side of that coin. I guess it wouldn't be a very good marketing ploy to try to set the bar a little lower. Let's just lower the standards of what they expect. And then when we put out something good, they'll be really surprised and happy with it.
Next topic.
So we know how most multiplayer games have two sides, red and blue. Which side do you think wins more?
I would think red would win more because red usually means bad. And maybe I'm wrong with this, but I think people would tend to want to be the bad guy, therefore picking the red team.
Okay. Here's the story out of the whole Sweden-Denmark area. They put out a story in the Journal of Cyber Psychology and Behavior. They found it is better to be on the red team rather than the blue team. They studied 1,347 matches of elite teams from UT2K4. And they found that 55% of the time, the red team won. And the reasoning was that they believe that the red was a psychological distractor for men. Meaning you're the blue guy, and you see the red guy coming at you. However, you're getting all distracted because he's red, and you're associating red with, like, anger, blushing, that kind of stuff, thus giving the red guy a chance to gun your ass down.
See, I was going with a completely different, because the other thing I was going to say for against blue is that most little kids want to be the good guys. Therefore, I guess this is kind of a knock on little kids, but for the most part, when playing games, little kids are the ones running off on their own, doing their own thing kind of a deal, and not really working as a team. So you're going to have less teamwork on the blue team because the little kids want to be good guys.
So your whole argument here is based on the fact that red is bad and blue is good.
Can you think of anything where that's not the case? G.I. Joe had blue laser bolts, Cobra had red. Luke had a blue lightsaber, Darth Vader had a red lightsaber. Red is bad and blue is good.
Yeah, so be on the red team. Although why they're playing UT2K4?
Now, granted, Unreal Tournament 2004 was a good game. Maybe they picked that because it's less expensive to run the study. You don't need as much resources and as much high-tech hardware.
Nah, we'll just take the Tom aspect and call them backwards and all that kind of stuff for being in a foreign country. In their igloos or their teepees or wherever the hell it is.
Sure, Swedes live in teepees now. It's a new video game show fact. Swedish people live in teepees and all of their skiers are hot blonde women.
Yes. And mind you, that's not us saying this. That's us being Tom and saying this. So
yes.
Send the hate mail to Tom.
Send the hate mail to Tom anyway.
And that was Video Game Show episode number 94 for Sunday, June 15th, 2008, Father's Day. Any ham sandwiches or shared dream pies to give to the world? And I think we have to give one to all the fathers of the world since it is Father's Day.
Unless you put cigarettes out on your kid.
Oh.
Then you get a shattered dream pie.
Oh.
I got a Shattered Dream Pie for a guy that's on my softball team. His name's Pat. He stopped at the gas station this morning and went to go grab a water bottle, and he grabbed the wrong bottle and went to take a drink, and it was a bottle with cigarette butts in it.
Oh.
What? What kind of a gas station is he at where he's
I
grabbing...
don't know. I really didn't get the full details. All he said was he grabbed the wrong bottle and...
Oh, I meant to grab the bottle of water, not the bottle of cigarette butts. Oh.
Yeah.
Why did they put those two right next to each other?
Ham Sandwich to Spate, a member of our forums, he found for us the perfect vending machine. It is an anger release vending machine. It's filled with breakable objects. China, little statues. It actually is a piece of art from a couple.
Yeah, Swiss and Danish artist. Because I was just looking at it thinking, well, wouldn't the top row break when it fell down to the bottom?
Yeah. But it's the thought that counts.
I gotta say, that's pretty funny. I like that.
Couple little quick announcements. First, a reminder about the GamerCast Network Xbox 360 gaming nights on Fridays. This week they're playing Burnout Paradise. Second, our listeners should really check out the GamerCast Network forums at gamercastnetwork.com/forums. Beyond being a really great forum and blogging community, we usually have giveaways on a weekly basis. And last reminder, don't forget to check out the video that I'm putting out right before this episode on the feed. And as always, send your questions, comments, queries, concerns, or a roll call question to the mailbag at mailbag@videogameshow.org, Skype us at videogameshow, or call us at 320-300-GAME. That is a standard long distance call and all normal fees apply. And that's a wrap. Happy Father's Day and good night.
How'd you do today? Did you win, lose?
We won 3 of the 4 games.
No, good job.
Won the first 3, lost the 4th game, just because we were very tired.
This is softball?
Yes.
And you did 4 games?
In a row.
I never understood that. We're going to play a bunch of games in a row thing in the middle of summer. It's dumb because the first game's a good game. The second game is... and by the third game, they just want to leave.
First game was over an hour and a half long because score was like 30-24.
30-20, dude. That's a football score. That's not baseball.
That's what happens when you get 2 equally bad teams playing each other.
Oh, sweet Jesus, that's funny, man.